welcome. Thank you for joining us. Today we're discussing the fascinating area within technology where physical products in the real world intersect with the digital world and Web3. We're talking about the tokenization of physical products and real-world physical assets on the blockchain, the interesting phenomenon of Web3 Phygitals, and why a lot of today's brands and hottest creators see this as a potentially huge new opportunity. To help us make sense of all of this, we have with us today the CEO and founder of Qliktag, Dilip Daswani, and the co-founder and director of product marketing at Qliktag, Neil Sequeira. Welcome to the podcast, Dilip and Neil.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
For our viewers who may not know much about Qliktag, can you tell us a little bit more? What is it exactly that you do?
Certainly. So I think the best way to sort of describe what we do is maybe through an example. But let me say that the reason we built this platform is so we saw sort of a changing environment of the types of products companies and creators want to build. Producers of physical products wanted to really add some digital value on top of those physical products. And to do that right, you really needed a platform like ours that allowed you to do that. So let me give you an example. So let's take a very simple physical product, a razor blade, right? So today, you don't think of any sort of digital aspect to a razor blade, but certainly if you had a capability where you could tap on the razor blade and it kept track of how many times you used it to shave, you could avoid overuse of that razor blade, stop cuts, maybe provide a notification to the user that they ought to be changing that razor blade because they've used it over a certain number of times. And so it adds interesting capabilities to a very simple product like a razor blade. Well, the issue is, how do you ensure that information that's getting updated in the cloud with the number of times you've used this razor blade is only possible in the presence of the razor blade itself by tapping on the razor blade? So nobody can go to that website or that link and update that information without actually having that razor blade with you. And so the technology we have allows you to do that in a manner that doesn't require an app to be installed. It works with mobile phones out of the box, and so you can provide these capabilities in a manner that it can't be replicated outside the presence of that physical product, which is really important if you're doing where you want to have a digital counterpart that's attached to that item, so it can't be messed with outside of that item.
And would this be for, say, an individual who just wants to create a small collection of physical NFTs or phygital items?
Well, our system can be used really by smaller creators as well as large brands. It's really made to scale into millions and millions of items, but it's just as applicable for small companies. We make it very easy for small brands or small creators to create a new generation of products that combine a physical product with some digital aspect. And there's a lot of interesting companies that have come to us with very, very, very interesting ideas. And we sort of have become an enabler platform for those companies to build these new generation of products.
Excellent. Very cool. Now let's take a step back to our main topic today, combining real-world products with NFT tokens and the Web3 world. In the last year or so, we've seen several big brands show interest and launch products paired with NFTs. In fashion and apparel, you've got Adidas, Nike, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Dior. Auction houses like Sotheby's and Christie's have announced Web3-related projects. We're also seeing a lot of newer brands and creators starting product lines as phygital brands right from the get-go. What's your sense for why this is happening? What's driving this trend towards connecting physical products and assets to the blockchain?
Well, the short answer to that is that the consumer is changing. So when I was born and grew up in the 80s and 90s, things were a lot different. The newer generation of consumers that we have today, they were born with the internet. They spend a lot of time online. They're what we call digital natives or the digital first generation of consumers. Now, this is a generation that sees things differently. They perceive value differently. They often prefer products that are highly individualized, that are authentic, that are personalized for them, that are ethical, and often they seek out products that reflect their own values or their online personas. They transact a lot online, they use digital wallets. So these are very different consumers that we have today. And the brands that understand this changing consumer, they've understood that it's necessary to be able to, adapt to this kind of consumer in an increasingly digital world. We believe what we're seeing is creators and brands that are able to offer products now that can be both digital and physical and deliver value across both the digital worlds and the physical world. And more importantly, they need to be able to do this in a way that's completely seamless. And I think that's part of the shift that we're seeing happening today.
Earlier, you mentioned that pairing or connecting a physical asset with an NFT or the digital world was challenging, and that secure NFC tags embedded in items are a key part of what you do at Qliktag. Can you elaborate more? How are the NFC tags you offer different from ones we find anywhere else?
So we talked earlier about these razor blades and how do we ensure that the update of the information is only possible in the presence of the razor blade itself. And the way we do that is we employ a special kind of near-field communication printed electronics tag. And it kind of works like those old bank fobs, right? Where every time you tap it, or every time you want to log into your banking account, you have to tap on this fob. It gave you a unique identifier that then the bank could validate that you actually had that in your presence to be able to get that number. And so it kind of works the same way. So this special kind of NFC tag, every time you tap it, it generates a unique identifier that we can only validate with our software based on some encryption keys and some special types of algorithms. And so that way we know before we update information or present information to the consumer, that digital information, that we really are in the presence of the product, and the product has been tapped and nobody's gone to that web address outside of that product.
So we've talked about tokenization of physical products and this trend of Web3 Phygitals and how they can help drive profitability for individual creators as well as for brands. Can you share a bit more about how that works?
Yes. So traditionally, brands have always manufactured a certain product in anticipation of demand. Let's consider an apparel company that's manufacturing something like blue hoodies. They would first manufacture these hoodies, right? Expecting a certain number of them to be sold. However, things don't always go the way they're planned. There's always an excess of production. There's returns. There's waste. There's unsold stock that ends up sitting and, being wasted. It's a whole lot of waste in that kind of approach, especially in times like this when we are talking about climate change, sustainability, and improving practices. When we understand the impact that mass manufacturing has on the environment and climate, it's not ideal with this kind of approach or to have this kind of waste. Now, if we consider how tokenization and NFTs can improve a process like this. So a couple of months ago, we worked with a really talented designer based out of England, and he designs streetwear. He launched a collection of 100 designs, very unique designs, and instead of manufacturing these, he sold them initially on OpenSea as NFTs. Now, consumers picked the design that they like. They had the NFT transferred to their wallet. They made their payments via credit card. Now, once those 100 were sold, the designer knows exactly how much he sold. He sold 100 units. He's already received the money for it because customers have paid for the NFT and they've received an NFT, which is essentially an ownership token for the hoodies. So he can now go and manufacture or produce exactly 100 hoodies, no waste, and have them delivered. Now, what the Qliktag solution allows you to do is, once the customers have received their jersey, they can use their phones to actually tap the NFC that's embedded within the jersey, and they can authenticate it. They can also verify ownership through the NFT token that's sitting on their wallet. So they know that what they've purchased online and what's been promised to them is exactly the same physical piece that they've received. So that's a whole new way of looking at, manufacturing or launching product lines, where instead of launching in anticipation of demand, you know exactly what the demand is even before you start producing it. And by doing that, you cut down waste. So we're seeing, more brands thinking along these lines.
Interesting. So how is that different from a brand offering to take pre-orders or offering to sell their products before they're manufactured? What makes NFTs and Web3 different?
So selling tokens that can be redeemed at some point later for a physical product versus just a pre-ordering, there's two fundamental differences, right? And why selling tokens versus just basic pre-ordering makes sense. One, when you sell a token, it's recorded on the blockchain. So there's a trust factor. So when you buy a token, if the brand or the creator doesn't deliver your product, you have a record that you bought the token. The record is on the blockchain, and you can always go back and stuff. When you pre-order, that information is maintained by the brand themselves, and so there's very limited trust. The second is anonymity. When you place a pre-order, typically you give up your information, your name, your address. Well, here in the case of a token, you're buying it with your wallet address. And so that wallet address is anonymous, right? You don't have to give your name. So if you, for whatever reason, maybe you're buying a token that's going to be redeemed for some high-end item and you don't really want anybody to know that you're purchasing this, buying a token allows you to do that. And then when you redeem it, you simply show that you own the token without necessarily giving up all your personal information.
Got it. It's a trust thing. How about from a marketing point of view? Is the creation of Phygitals and leveraging Web3 blockchain a marketing strategy?
Yes, so that's a very interesting point you brought up about connecting things to Web3 or the blockchain as a marketing strategy. So I play the guitar, and I've been looking to purchase a new guitar online, one with a very specific configuration I had in mind. So I started researching different brands that manufacture the kind of guitar that I was looking for. And I stumbled across one that I found pretty interesting, and what they created really matched what I was looking for. So I went to their website and I assumed that I would simply be able to go and purchase or order that guitar online. But it turns out that's not the way that they do things. So this company or this brand, what they do is they design a new model every month and they announce them as a limited edition drop on their website. So they pick a certain date and time, and then customers that are interested in this model can show up at that time and place their orders for that specific guitar. That will be a limited run. These drops sell out really quickly. I noticed that within an hour, everything was sold, and you simply couldn't purchase one if you were late. And that's a very interesting way of doing things, because as a buyer, when I know that this guitar is manufactured as a limited edition or a limited run, I know that there are not too many around. So it's something that's more personalized, something that's more rare in a way. So I'm willing to pay more for that guitar because it's individualized. And the interesting thing is, if you link something like this to the blockchain, especially if you link ownership and make it digitally transferable, it's more likely to have a higher resale value because, again, it's a limited piece. It has traceability. You can see the chain of custody or the ownership, previous history. And simply by ensuring that there is a non-fungible record of ownership on the blockchain, it's more likely to have higher resale value. So at this point, when I'm purchasing it, I'm willing to pay more simply knowing that I'll be able to sell that same guitar one day at a better value, possibly, because it's limited and it's very easily transferable to people all across the world, because I can simply transfer an NFT to anyone that's willing to buy it, and then I can ship that guitar to them at a later date, and they can verify it once again, just to make sure that what they received is exactly what they purchased digitally in the first place. So we're seeing this whole trend of launching new products as drops or limited edition collections. That's something that's really picking up among brands today, and it's something that's resonating with this new generation of digital consumers as well. And the blockchain and Web3 has a really important part to play in this kind of a future.
Let's touch upon secondary market commissions and smart contracts. I remember a few years ago when the concept of NFTs first took off, it really split opinions, didn't it? There were those who jumped on the NFT bandwagon and spent a lot of money on digital art NFTs, and a lot of other people said, hey, this is just a fad, it's going to die out quickly. Digital art was just the first use case to take off, in my opinion, and the real value in NFT technology is in smart contracts. The ability to build a digital contract and terms into a transaction, that's where the potential is. A smart contract that allows a creator, for example, to collect payment not just on their first sale, but every time that item transfers and ownership changes. That's got to be big for someone like an artist who sells a painting that may be worth much more several years later, huh?
So smart contracts really are really an innovative way of transacting, right? And so you're right. So one of the reasons why smart contracts could be very valuable to creators and brands is a lot of times, especially when collectibles are sold initially, the value of that collectible is not as high as it possibly could be in the future. And so the creator does not reap the benefits of the future appreciation. Well, if a product, physical product, like a piece of artwork or even Beanie Babies is tied to a token, and to transfer ownership, not only do you have to sell the item, but also transfer the token, then you can put in place a mechanism in the smart contract that when the token gets transferred and now the new person has not only the physical product, but the ownership token, that transfer triggers some sort of payment. So if the payment is done through the transfer token, then it can be some percentage of that token transfer price. And so if the product that you originally sold was $1,000, but now it's worth $100,000, that original creator is able to reap the benefits. And you can also, if the money is transacted outside the system or outside the token, you can put a fixed price that as soon as the token's transferred, at least some amount of money is transferred to the creator. So again, there's a lot of legal and contracts and how do you ensure. But as the industry matures and more products have tokens attached to them, we'll see that happen. The other thing smart contracts can do is things like escrow payments, right? So, for example, if you're buying from a party that you don't know, they could be in a different country. How do you know they're going to deliver the item? Well, maybe you can have a smart contract set up that allows the money, when you purchase the token, to be deposited into an escrow account, right? So a holder that's a trusted holder of that money. And until you get that physical item and you validate it, that you've received it and it's actually tied to that token, you can then release the money. And again, our technology plays in that because it ensures that you've received it and then the link on that item through that NFC tag ensures that you're in the presence of that item, and then you can release that payment. So so smart contracts are really important going forward, we think. And we're seeing more and more activity where the digital counterpart to these physical items is that, is an NFT or a non-fungible token that resides on the blockchain. And so that's a key part of what we're seeing and what's driving our business today.
That's a great example. I can totally see the value in having NFTs representing ownership certificates for physical assets and collectibles almost. Even the concept of having shares or shared ownership of physical assets through token and being able to authenticate that while you're in front of that physical asset. Very powerful concept. Huge amount of potential, I think. What are the other innovative or more interesting use cases you're seeing for combining physical products and items with Web3 and the blockchain with these secure NFC tags?
Well, yeah, we hear about a lot of interesting use cases while talking to customers or prospects. Very often, these are use cases or ideas that we never thought about when we actually designed Qliktag, but people come to us and say, we want to use your technology in order to build this or do this. One of the more interesting use cases that we've come across is pairing trees with NFTs. And the reason behind this is it's in order to be able to sell carbon credits. So the customer came to us saying that what we want to do is plant trees in a forest or in the real world and have them represented by NFT tokens in the digital world so that they can easily be transferred to companies that are looking to purchase carbon credits or to be able to offset their own carbon emissions. And to do this, what we did was we actually have NFC tags that come in the form of a plastic nail or a hard plastic nail that can actually be hammered in the tree. So when someone walks up to a tree and you scan it, you can actually pull up information on the tree, like when it was planted, the dimensions of the tree, when it was last inspected, who owns the NFT against that tree, and also details like based on the size of the tree, how much carbon dioxide can that particular tree absorb. So all that information can be stored and it can be tied to the physical tree so that the NFT and the tree are tied in a way where it cannot be manipulated. And when you're purchasing an NFT, there's a real tree behind that NFT that is absorbing carbon, and it's not some kind of a scheme just to, offset carbon credits. So it's something that's verifiable, and because the tokens are connected to these NFC nails that are in the tree, they can't be cloned either. So that's one of the more interesting use cases. We're also working with a very talented designer based out of Brazil, and he's creating some very cool digital art, which he's deploying as NFTs, but he's also offering skateboards with unique prints of that digital art. And these skateboards actually have an NFC chip embedded in them. So someone who's buying one of his NFT designs not only gets the digital art, but they also have the physical skateboard deck that's delivered to them. And these are some really nice, unique designs, which people can purchase online, and then they can actually tap the tag to verify the NFT ownership that they purchased on these skateboards. We're also working with another really interesting company based out of South America, and this company works with soccer clubs or football clubs, and they take match-worn jerseys in some of the top leagues. So when players wear their jersey and they're done with the game, these jerseys are embedded with an NFC tag, a fabric tag that goes onto the actual jersey, and all the statistics of the game are recorded against this. Things like who was the referee, what date was this game played on, who wore this shirt, videos of the goals scored by the player wearing that shirt. So all the interesting statistics and relevant details of the match are registered against the digital twin and the NFT and actually tied to the jersey. So when they're put up for auction, anyone buying it can verify that this is actually, a jersey or a soccer ball that was used within this league and owned or worn by a player or used to score a specific goal within that league. And it becomes a whole lot more valuable when you can do that and you can authenticate that. So that's one of the other really interesting use cases. We've also been in talks with a fashion brand that's looking to sell very exclusive fashion pieces, but in the form of NFTs. So the NFT ownership for those fashion pieces can be transferred, and then the physical dress or couture item can actually be vaulted and stored in a safe warehouse. And the NFT can actually be transferred from owner to owner. They can resell that NFT to people who are interested in owning it without actually transferring the physical apparel or the dress. And at any point, if they want to actually redeem it, they can use the NFT token physically to redeem the dress, take it out of the vault, and use it or wear it. So these are often high value things which are traded, things like art, limited edition fashion pieces, things like that. And that's another really interesting area where we're seeing the NFT that represents ownership being transferred without actually having the physical piece transferred. And yet there is a physical item or an asset behind it, which you can redeem at any point from a location using that NFT. So that's another really interesting area and use case. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting ideas that we hear about pretty regularly, and it's a very exciting space overall. The possibilities we think are pretty endless. The key is really having that binding mechanism to link the physical with the digital. And beyond that, it's really whatever you can imagine for your hybrid product ideas. If you have an idea, we're most likely be able to configure it and set it up on the platform using our technology. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Awesome. Those are some pretty innovative uses of phygital technology, or connecting physical products to the blockchain with NFC. So in conclusion, what would you tell our viewers if they'd like to launch their own phygital product offering, or if they have their own ideas for digital physical hybrid product offerings? How can they leverage Qliktag's technology and platform?
So anyone that wants to create phygital products can go to our website. They can get all the information they want about our platform, book a meeting. We'll give them a demo. And we're really a full service provider. So we not only provide the software platform, but we source the tags for you. There's a lot of manufacturers of these special tags. So we source them, we make sure they're delivered, they're good quality tags, and we offer all different kinds of tags for different types of products. We also have our own hardware device, and that hardware device makes it very easy to encode these tags because they are quite complicated. It's by simply downloading information from our software and uploading it to the encoder. This encoder is also in the possession of a couple of manufacturers that we do business with. So they're able to encode these tags for our customers as well, especially when they're in large volume. So, for smaller creators, those that are happy can use the device that they can purchase from us to encode the tags themselves, or they can have the manufacturer encode them for them if they're of a larger quantity.
Thank you, Dilip and Neil. Very insightful discussion. And we're excited to see where this technology takes us. The potential in the space of physical products and assets being tokenized and connected to the blockchain and Web3 appears to be just taking off, and this is definitely an area with a ton of promise and potential. Thank you once again for being with us today, and thank you all, our viewers, for joining us for today's discussion.